Hello, my name is Candice Field, and I would like to welcome you to my presentation of a language learning app I've been working on called Wandering Prose. Thank you for joining me, and we can get started. First off, I'd like to introduce our user persona. Her name is Lisa Vang. She's 26 years old, resides in New York City. She got her master's degree in communication, and currently she works as a communication specialist and then does photography freelance on the side, which has always been one of her more creative passions that she pursues. She's also single and unmarried, but in her words, she enjoys her own time and she loves to travel. And she says being unattached right now, it helps her to be able to travel so many places and anytime she wants. When it came to designing this, coming up with this language learning app, some of the things I wanted to keep in mind was certain goals and motivations that Lisa would want out of an app. Some of the things that she did, or she said that she wanted, was the ability to learn new languages in order to better communicate with her international clients that she works with on a daily basis. She is quite a night owl, so she wanted something that would be it'd help with her schedule. So she definitely needed options to night study, and she didn't want to have to do it in the morning, so she wanted something very flexible. She is kind of a procrastinator. She doesn't like to say that, but she knows that she is. So she needed something that would help with accountability. And then because with her photography and her joy of travel, she does have a travel blog. And she loves working on it, and she wanted to be able to reach more people through it by being able to have the opportunity to learn new languages and better communicate with people. First off, before starting the design part of the app, there was problems we had to think about. Lisa specifically needed a way to study anywhere, meaning that she wanted to be able to complete lessons on her phone or tablet or any other device without having to have a Wi-Fi connection while traveling. Because she does travel a lot, some places when she's not in the airport, she probably doesn't have a Wi-Fi connection, and she wanted to be able to do lessons without needing that. Another issue with her was accountability, of course, as I mentioned earlier, in some way of like meeting goals or getting badges or something that would keep her motivated to complete lessons and continue through her goals. So after considering her problems that she wanted to be fixed and what she was looking for in an app, we developed the problem statement that Lisa needed a language learning app that had downloadable features as well as reminders and possibly a friend network that could help her stay accountable and move closer to her language goals. Some challenges that our persona would face would she'd need a way to learn via auditory and speaking. Some people, she's fairly a visual person, but auditory and speaking language or speaking lessons are even more helpful to her. Needs a way to save progress and then continue lessons at a later time if work comes up. She is a procrastinator, but having a job that she does, she's constantly on call, and if she's in the middle of a lesson and something big at work comes up that she needs to address immediately, being able to save progress would be very beneficial to not only her, but of course to the user persona that we're going after. Also needs to be pushed to complete lessons and meet goals. As mentioned earlier, of course, she needs a way to kind of a reward system in a way that would help her. One of the things that she always says is never stop learning because life never stops teaching, which is, I mean, it's a quote to live by, of course, because the world's constantly changing, people are constantly changing, and being able to learn and grow with that change makes life worth living, is what she says. So after completing the interviews and the user persona and thinking of all the problems that needed to be faced with this app, I started doing the prototypes, wireframing. So as you can see here, there is the splash screen with the logo and the title. And then from there, it'll go to the onboarding screens, just kind of giving you a brief overview of what the app is about, what it can do. So there'd be 3 of those. And then if you notice in the top corners of those, there's a skip button. So if the user just kind of knows that they can figure it out on their own, they can feel free to skip that and go to the start. Once the onboarding's finished, users will be presented with the home screen you see on the far left. And at the bottom, you can see the navigation system, or the navigation tab bar, I'm sorry. Home, lessons, groups, and review. The home screen is, of course, as you can see, the user's profile page. Different languages, what languages they're studying, their kind of the completion goal, which we figured that would help users want to complete more is if they saw a bar of how close they were getting to the end of a lesson. That would kind of promote a sense of achievement, a goal, and keep them going. And the next was the lesson screen. As you can see, there's download lessons. The user can jump right to the current lesson that they are working on. There's a test out option. If you think you don't need to do lesson 1, you think you know beginner French fairly well, you can test out of that if you wish. And then there's multiple lessons there. Next tab was the groups. This also helps with the accountability issue by being able to see friends' posts, contact friends, anything like that. Be a part of a group that can help keep you accountable and see that your friends are achieving goals that would push you to do more. And then the last tab would be the review bar. It just is kind of a review of each of the lessons you've done, so you can kind of have a recap of what you've studied. During our user testing, we decided to test the sign-in and the login to the app. Have the users go through the onboarding screens, see if they can get a better understanding of the app's features. They were asked to find the first lesson and start it, download a lesson to complete later, locate a friend's profile, and then lastly, locate and join a group/community to ensure a greater amount of accountability. So we asked them to go through these tests to make sure functionality was there and the layout was there as well. The reasoning for these specific tests during usability were based on what the persona was looking for in a language learning app. So going back to what Lisa was wanting and needing out of a language learning app, that promoted why we tested these specific areas. By testing the app's base functions, we could better understand what the user would want and need. Going back to early prototypes, after testing was completed, we noticed some issues, some things that needed to be addressed. Not too drastic, but some changes that needed to be made. The first one was that on the settings page, as you can see, there is no back button. So once the user clicked on the settings, there was really nowhere for them to go. And then on the last onboarding screen, we do have the skip button that allows users to be able to just go straight to the home. But once they get to the last screen, there's really they'd have to click skip to get to the home button, whereas there should be a button that says begin or start or go to home, something that would allow them to know that they don't have to just hit the skip button. And then something that posed major confusion, this one definitely has to be addressed, was the groups tab. At the top, there's a secondary navigation between newsfeed, your friends, and groups. So there was confusion between the groups tab being called groups and then the secondary navigation up at the top of also groups. So we need to change either the tab, that says groups in the bottom navigation, or rename the groups up at the top secondary navigation. So once those problems were addressed and found out, of course, we added the back button to the settings screen to allow easier navigation, obviously. And then on the last screen of the onboarding, so they don't just have to hit the skip button, they know that's the last onboarding screen. There's a go to home button, so that signifies onboarding's finished. You can go start the app now. And then what we did for the confusion that was between on the groups tab, we renamed groups on the main tab at the bottom to community. We felt that community, the word community, incorporates newsfeed, friends, and groups as one better than just having it called groups. And then to the right, you can see some of the quotes that we had from our user testing. Some positive quotes. Well, that was easy, love that. That was from our very first user. That quote described the feed from when you go to a lesson and to start it, that it was very straightforward, very easy. And then the second quote, I like the onboarding screens, but I also like that you added a skip button. Some people just they want to figure out the app on their own, and I feel like that's a good option to add by adding the skip button. Next steps, definitely improving the prototype. As you can see, we've started with the last screen of the improvements. We're going to think about adding a couple low fidelity screens to allow users a chance to see more of what an actual lesson would look like. So that way it's not just you see the lesson, but you don't really know what it's going to look like once you click on it. Think about drawing up some of those. Conduct another round of user testing to test the revised screens and features I added. And then once user testing is complete, I'd like to design a few of the app screens and look at colors and typography. As a graphic designer myself, I'm very excited about the UI part of the app layouts. So I'm excited about that. Some of the pros and cons, of course, through this whole process. More pros than cons, which is good. Pros would be multiple rounds of user testing. May seem time consuming at the beginning, but it is actually helping you save time in the long run. I know this is only the first project, but I can see where doing all the testing up front is definitely going to save you time in the long run. By conducting extensive research before starting the process, you develop a stronger grasp on what you need to do. It's obvious, it's straightforward. Get your answers at the beginning before you jump right in. And then sketching out wireframes rather than starting immediately designing on a computer does save you time and much frustration. I can see that, because if there's something wrong, you can erase it with a pencil, redraw it. It's so much easier than just jumping right into the computer and starting to design things. There were a couple of cons that I saw. Finding people who are willing to participate in interviews and user testing exercises is more difficult than I had thought. I feel like they thought I was testing them and not so much the user testing of the app itself. But after explaining that it's not testing them per se, it's just them telling me what needs to change on the app. So it's them testing the app for me, and just explaining that to them really helped them be more enthusiastic about participating. And then sketching out wireframes is easier than going straight to the computer, but still quite time consuming. Because, if you aren't confident in your drawing skills, it might take you a little while. And me being kind of a little bit of a perfectionist, if my lines have to be straight and all that stuff, which when sketching wireframes, they really just you need to get the ideas out first. So that was the only con I saw with that. But besides that, I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope some of the questions were answered correctly. And thank you for joining me. Have a nice day.